Yeah. Yeah, man.
I had never seen my father wield a weapon before. On that Christmas evening of 1988, he opened one of the cabinets in the living room and pulled out a shotgun. He gave me a long, hard look. "I'm sorry, Amy." He then stepped out into the backyard to put Snuffles down. My parents had trouble bearing children. They tried every method out there, but failed in every single one of them. I was their jackpot. A 1 in a million chance, and yet, 9 months later, I was delivered into my mother's arms. Amy Melinda Ramsey. My parents took so many pictures of me. In most of them, they looked as if they were about to burst with joy, enthralled by their healthy little girl. I think it was as soon as I began to speak that I questioned the singularity of my existence. "Can I have a little brother?" I pestered my mother as I played on the hardwood floor. "We'll see," my mother would always reply. I never addressed any questions to father though. To my younger self, he was a rather daunting and intimidating figure in our home. He was one of those quiet working men, the steady ant, the always on-time employee. It was a Monday, if I can recall correctly, that the kid next door brought home a pug puppy for our play date. It only took me about 2 seconds before I instantly fell in love with its bulging brown eyes, cartoonish smile, and adorable face wrinkles. I wanted him to stay forever, but he eventually had to leave. It was funny how a child's mind works. At that point, I completely forgot about my longing for a brother or sister. Such thoughts had been replaced with an army of tiny pug puppies, marching and waving around their pigtails and stocky bodies. A few days before Christmas, we all sat at the table for dinner. My mother took a sip of her soup and smiled at me. "Have you made your letter to Santa?" she asked. No." "Well, how do you expect him to know what you want then?" "I want a puppy, a pug puppy. I already have a name for him. Snuffles." "If you do, write it down on a piece of paper and hang it in our tree," she replied. My father nodded a few times here and there, but did not utter a single word. I would later find out that he had been laid off that day. I guess they were trying to protect me from such things, so they just swallowed those nasty thorns away from my sight. I followed my mother's orders. This was my best chance of getting a puppy, and I was not going to waste it. I sat down on a small toy table in my room and scribbled a letter with the best handwriting a 6-year-old could manage. I remembered that my letter, although crude and concise, was flooded with crayon drawings of me and Snuffles. My mom helped me hang it on the highest branches of our Christmas tree. I stood there for a while, admiring the card, filling my mind with all the adventures me and Snuffles would have. As a result of my father's job loss, we struggled to make ends meet. I could see it in their faces, in the corners of their mouths and eyes, that there was something going on. But they would just cloak it up with a half-assed grin. My parents concluded that a pug puppy was simply out of their possibilities and bought me a toy pug instead. They hoped that this might keep me happy and would buy them some time to save up for a real one. I bet they were quite surprised when they saw a strange box under the tree that neither of them recognized on that December 25th of 1988. It vibrated around violently, and there was definitely something whimpering inside. "Snuffles!" I yelled victoriously. My parents stood back in the corner of the living room as I rushed to grab the shuffling box. It was beautifully wrapped with a deep violet paper and intricate black jewels. An elegant golden bow crowned the gift, resting ominously on top of it. A letter was attached to one of the sides of the gift. The handwriting was cursive, and as a child I was unable to read it. I gave the letter to my mother, eager to know what Santa had written me. She read it in silence, and after glancing back to my father in what I could only describe as sheer shock, she handed him the card. My father scanned it briefly before rushing out of the house. He circled our property for about 10 minutes before coming back inside, pale as the snow sticking out of his boots. "What does it say?" I asked. They kept talking to each other, completely disregarding my inquiry. I don't recall their exact words, but it was something along the lines of psycho, sick joke, or something like that. I started to get scared, but I could not understand why, since I assumed Snuffles, my pug puppy, was inside the box just as I had asked for. "Hey!" I yelped as my dad snatched the gift away from me. "Let me take a look inside, sweetie. The letter says he might be sick." My father lied. He took the box and locked himself in his study. After a couple of minutes, he called for my mother, and they both disappeared behind the study's oak door. When they finally came back, they both bore that heavy look in their eyes. It was that painful gaze of another thorn snug tightly into their hearts. It wasn't until 10 years later, after I had almost forgotten all about the incident, that I stumbled upon the letter again. My father had gotten out of his rut and scored a high-paying job in Dallas. I was helping unpack the things in his study when the letter, as if guided by an invisible force, landed on the floor when I went to pick up some papers in one of the drawers. "Hey, was this the letter Snuffles came with?" I asked. "What? Where did you find that?" "It was in your drawer. What's wrong with it?" My father sighed. "It was just a sick joke from a prankster." "So, Snuffles?" "I don't know what was in that box, but I can assure you, it was no dog," my father replied. I read the letter.
Dear Amy, thanks for the letter. I think you meant to spell Santa, but don't worry, my child. I'll show you I am way better than that fat, self-righteous, cookie-gobbling old man. As proof of that, I brought you a special gift. I hope you like it. It's not exactly what you expect, but I hope you understand that I have limited resources to work with down here. Enjoy your gift. Merry Christmas. Yours truly, Lucifer.